You are watching H Nagar Trending Videos.
Lift up the boy, and hold him fast with your hand, for I will make him into a great nation. Then God opened her eyes, and she saw a well of water. And she went and filled the skin with water and gave the boy a drink. And God was with the boy, and he grew up. He lived in the wilderness and became an expert with the bow. Ishmael, the son of Abraham, lived in the wilderness of Paran, and his mother arranged a wife for him. Ishmael was the eldest son of Abraham and Hagar. His mother was an Egyptian slave of Sarah, Abraham's wife. God had promised Abraham that he would have a numerous offspring, even in his advanced age. Genesis, chapter 12, verse 7, and chapter 15, verse 5. Sarah was barren, and according to the customs of their time, she offered Hagar to Abraham so that an heir could be produced for their family. That's how Ishmael was born. At that time, Abraham was already 86 years old. Discover the story of Abraham in the Bible. And it is in this way that the biblical story of Ishmael, son of Abraham, begins. Abraham loved his son Ishmael and even asked God to consider him as the promised heir. However, God had promised Abraham that he would give him a descendant through his own wife, as stated in Genesis, chapter 17. God commanded Abraham to circumcise his son Ishmael and all the other males in his household, including the slaves born in his household and those acquired from foreigners. Abraham was 99 years old when he himself was circumcised, and his son Ishmael was 13. They both underwent circumcision on the same day. And all the slaves of Abraham, whether born in his household or acquired from foreigners, were circumcised as well. The birth of Sarah and Abraham's legitimate son caused a series of relationship problems between Sarah and Hagar. In fact, even before Ishmael was born, Sarah and Hagar had already clashed. Hagar eventually fled to the desert out of fear of Sarah. In the desert, The angel of the Lord appeared to Hagar and commanded her to return to Abraham's household. It was in the desert that the angel also told her that the son she carried in her womb should be named Ishmael. Therefore, the name Ishmael means, God hears, because the Lord heard Hagar's distress. Genesis chapter 16, verse 11. But the disagreement between Sarah and Hagar reached its peak when Isaac was weaned. During Isaac's weaning feast, Ishmael ended up mocking him. Sarah was deeply offended and demanded that Abraham send away Hagar and her son. Genesis chapter 21. Sarah said to Abraham, "Drive out this slave woman and her son, for the son of this slave woman shall not be heir with my son Isaac." Abraham was greatly distressed because Ishmael was also his son. But God said to Abraham, "Do not be distressed because of the boy and because of your slave woman. Whatever Sarah says to you, do as she tells you, for through Isaac shall your offspring be named. I will make a nation of the son of the slave woman also, because he is your offspring." So early in the morning Abraham took bread and a skin of water and gave it to Hagar, putting it on her shoulder, along with the child, and sent her away. And she departed and wandered in the wilderness of Beersheba. When the water in the skin was gone, she put the child under one of the bushes. Then she went and sat down opposite him a good way off, about the distance of a bow shot, for she said, "Let me not look on the death of the child." And as she sat opposite him, she lifted up her voice and wept. And God heard the voice of the boy, and the angel of God called to Hagar from heaven and said to her, "What troubles you, Hagar? Fear not, for God has heard the voice of the boy where he is. Up. Lift up the boy, and hold him fast with your hand, for I will make him into a great nation." Then God opened her eyes, and she saw a well of water. And she went and filled the skin with water and gave the boy a drink. And God was with the boy, and he grew up. He lived in the wilderness and became an expert with the bow. Ishmael, the son of Abraham, lived in the wilderness of Paran, and his mother arranged a wife for him from the land of Egypt. Although Isaac remained as the sole heir of Abraham, Ishmael and the other sons of Abraham with his concubines were also blessed by him, as stated in Genesis chapter 25. This means that both the son of Hagar and the sons of Keturah received material possessions from the patriarch. After reaching adulthood, the Bible does not record any disagreements between Ishmael and Isaac. They are shown as being responsible for burying Abraham in Machpelah. Genesis chapter 25, verse 9. Ishmael became a great hunter. He was very skilled with a bow and arrow. Hagar sought an Egyptian wife for Ishmael, and with her, he had 12 sons and 1 daughter. Later, Ishmael's daughter married Esau, Isaac's son, as recorded in Genesis chapter 28, verse 9, and chapter 36, verse 3. The names of Ishmael's sons are mentioned in Genesis chapter 25, between verses 13 and 15. The list is as follows: Nebaioth, Kedar, Adbeel, Mibsam, Mishma, Duma, Massa, Hadad, Tema, Jetur, Naphish, and Kedema. Most of these names are mentioned in other biblical passages as influential tribal families of that time. The descendants of Ishmael, the son of Abraham, are generally identified as Ishmaelites in the Bible. They organized themselves into 12 tribes that lived in mobile camps in the southern desert. Genesis chapter 25. Ishmael died at the age of 137. Genesis chapter 25, verse 17. The Bible does not specify where he was buried, but Muslim tradition asserts that he was buried in the Kaaba in Mecca. In the New Testament, Ishmael is mentioned specifically by the Apostle Paul. The apostle used the figure of the son of the slave woman in his allegory about the opposition of legalistic religious people who persecuted those who were born according to the Spirit and enjoyed freedom in Christ. Galatians chapter 4, verse 21. Ishmael became a relatively common name, which is why other people are mentioned in the Bible with the name Ishmael. There was, for example, a descendant of Saul and Jonathan named Ishmael. There was also a high official during the reign of Jehoshaphat, and the son of a priest during the time of Ezra. But among all the mentioned individuals, the most well-known was the son of Netaniah, a member of the royal house of David. During the time of Babylonian oppression against the Jews, this Ishmael killed Gedaliah, the governor of Judah appointed by Nebuchadnezzar. As we conclude our analysis of Ishmael, Abraham's son, we can highlight several key points. Ishmael was blessed with numerous descendants, just like Isaac's offspring, and this lineage was organized into 12 tribal clans. God also described the character of Ishmael, emphasizing the nomadic nature of his descendants and the opposition they would face in relation to the children of the covenant. Over time, Ishmael's descendants joined with the Midianites, who were also descendants of Abraham through Keturah. This convergence of peoples and intertwined histories led to the Ishmaelites and Midianites being essentially the same people in various biblical passages. Today, Arabs trace their lineage back to Abraham, primarily through Ishmael. The story of Ishmael, Abraham's son, extends beyond a mere personal biography. It reveals much about God's work and the outpouring of His grace in the history of redemption. Ishmael represents natural birth, resulting from the fertile relationship between Abraham and Hagar, while Isaac represents supernatural birth, in which God demonstrated His great power by enabling a 90-year-old barren woman to conceive a child.